You're tuning into Black and White Sports on YouTube. The no-holds-barred truth on sports. The main event starts.
All right, Black and White Sports supporters. Well, I found this rather interesting. I just came across it and was like, well, let's talk about it. The other day I did a video. We found out that in the United States on Google Trends, Google searches, Sophie Cunningham was the most searched athlete in all of the United States for the 2025 year. Now, in that would have been huge spikes for various reasons related to basketball, maybe not related to basketball, cultural things, all this kind of thing. You know, Google's kind of all-encompassing. But when it comes to actual just basketball, it seems like Caitlin Clark still pretty much dominates everything in the United States of America. Angel Reese, there's some states on here, including Texas, which I gotta tell you, I'm kind of surprised that Angel Reese is actually searched more involving basketball than Caitlin Clark, but it's also using a metrics from Basketball Reference. So if you need to go look up Angel Reese's stats, you know, for any reason, like making a video about missed layups, Basketball Reference may be what you decide to use. But I found this very interesting. Also, the Indiana Fever, they also dominate the United States. New search metric proves Caitlin Clark's unparalleled popularity. If the Google list raised any doubts about Caitlin Clark's popularity, that came to an end after Basketball Reference released an annual map showing their website's most searched WNBA player in all 50 states, which was conveyed in a graphic from an X post from Miles Now to hell with it. Sorry, Miles, of Windsor. So the graphic shows that Clark was Basketball Reference's most searched player in 41 out of 50 states. Chicago Sky star Angel Reese was the most searched player in the 9 other states. So that's pretty interesting. There's actual graphics for this. The key difference between Basketball Reference and Google searches is that the former pertains solely to basketball, what actually happens on the court, in other words, while Google search is more about visibility and cultural buzz. This is why Cunningham, who was supremely buzzworthy in 2025, beat out Clark on the Google search, but is nowhere to be found on the Basketball Reference page. Well, and the other thing that would have affected the Google situation, Caitlin Clark was hurt the majority of this year. That is something to remember there. Now, I mean, far as reach goes, Google reigns supreme over everything, and it's not even close. But far as actually basketball-related searches, Basketball Reference a pretty good, gives you a pretty good idea of what's going on. So let's look at the actual maps. You see Caitlin Clark pretty much dominates everything. It shouldn't be surprising. I mean, Angel Reese went to LSU, Mississippi, Alabama. Okay, Texas is huge. And then Caitlin's got Oklahoma, Arkansas. She's got everything else. So she dominated on 41 out of the 50 states, right? So I found that kind of interesting. And then there's Canada. Sorry, Canada. As we move on. And then here's the teams and what states certain teams dominate in. The very, very far north, you got the Lynx. Wyoming is inexplicably the Mercury. Arizona, of course, the Mercury. Nevada, the Aces. Sorry, LA Sparks. But that Golden State Valkyries team, no doubt about it. You can tell just from watching their games. Man, they own it in California now, plain and simple. Indiana Fever dominates everything else. Everything else. Most viewed team pages. Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas. I do find it interesting that the most searched team pages is the Indiana Fever in states that Angel Reese came up as the most searched in those states. That is kind of interesting. But let's just see if the Chicago Sky is. No. I mean, not even Illinois. It's still the Indiana Fever. So that brand, and this is why we tell you that the Indiana Fever is America's team. Well, that shows you right there. They're pretty much America's team. You know, I mean, they're on that map for 35, 36, 37 states maybe out of 50. It's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. Again, you know, something that would have contributed to Sophie Cunningham on Google would have been the conflict with J.C. Sheldon, her modeling, you know, she moved her podcast. She moves the needle for a lot of different things, and the fact that combine that with Caitlin Clark being hurt. Yeah, I mean, Sophie's got a lot of cultural buzz right now. She does, no doubt about it. You know, I can tell you just from the analytics of this channel, Sophie Cunningham videos don't perform as well as Caitlin Clark. But I will tell you this, she's second. I mean, everybody, Asia, Angel, everybody else is behind Sophie. You know, at least on this channel that talks predominantly Indiana Fever basketball, but we'll talk anything WNBA related if it's interesting. That's very interesting indeed. I found that interesting now. We all know Basketball Reference is used by media members, YouTubers, content creators, anybody involved with social media, anybody that wants to talk about basketball, anybody that wants to do a contrast compare related to basketball. You know, it would be irresponsible to say that maybe Kelsey Mitchell didn't play a role in the Indiana Fever's dominance as well. You know, because, well, Caitlin was out. You couldn't look at her stats. Her stats were not going to change as long as she was out. But Kelsey, I can tell you this. I use Basketball Reference a ton to look up Kelsey Mitchell-related statistics this season. Sophie, too. Lexi, too. You know, if I do a video reaction on a game, I pretty much use that. I mean, we all use Basketball Reference. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks for watching the show. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to tune in next time on Black and White Sports.